We have Lindsay Kennedy from PhysioVictory in Conroe, Texas. And I am bringing her on so that I can interview her on the background of her practice and have her tell her story of her insanely fast growth. So I met Lindsay in December of 2022, and since then she has tripled the revenue in her practice, and for the last 6 months she has been steadily hitting those numbers and continuing to grow. And she has really honed in her specialty in her neighborhood and developed a community in Conroe. So I want to have her come on and share the progress, what it's like behind the scenes, what she learned the hard way, and any lessons from going through the transition from mobile last summer to a brick and mortar physical location to then hiring a team and getting her staff to believe in the mission behind PhysioVictory and getting them to use their skills independently, but also follow the values and the type of treatment that you want as the owner, right? That's a really big thing, is making sure that it's consistent with your team. So I am going to check if she is on here. All right. And if you have any questions, hey Seth, hey Matt, hi Jennifer. If you have any questions for Lindsay, put them in the chat. I'm gonna go through, request to join. So I'm gonna go through some questions. I'm gonna ask her kind of what her initial the start of her career was like. So Lindsay had a very kind of interesting break in the middle, which I think a lot of you can relate to as far as being a parent. So she had a little bit of a break, and then when she came back to the field, she got her certification in orthopedics and really just leaned into opening this practice. And so I want her to go through kind of that transition and then what it was like working mobile, because we have a lot of mobile PTs in the audience. So, kind of going from mobile to committing to either a sublease or, like she did, a full-on lease. She has a beautiful office space with multiple private treatment rooms. And she is just logging in now. So does anyone have any questions that you want me to make sure I cover? We're going to talk about, what it was like working for someone else before she opened, and those first few months of deciding to go on your own. And then here she is. I want to add her. There we go. All right, Lindsay, you are coming on. Jennifer, do you have any questions for Lindsay while she's just logging in here? Put them in the chat and I'll make sure I ask them. Okay, Lindsay, you are with me. So I sent you the invite. So on the bottom where it says request to join, just hit accept, and then we should be good to go. Okay, so, hey Laura, we're talking to Lindsay in Texas. She is a practice owner with a growing team. If you have any questions for Lindsay as she's just logging in here, type them in. So Laura is in an adjacent healthcare specialty. You're gonna get a close up of my face for a second. Yeah, Lindsay, so you just want to click on the bottom where it says request to join. Okay. Hey Mariah, if you have any questions about Lindsay's startup story, you can drop them in the chat. So we're gonna go all the way from, when she decided to go into PT as a field, any setbacks she had, or what it was like working for someone else that kind of made her want to go out on her own. And then what the first few months of building this practice, going from mobile to brick and mortar. I see you, Lindsay. On the bottom, it says comment, then there's a camera, and then there's people. You want to click on the people and click request to join. I sent the invite. I don't know if maybe you want to try going out and back in. Is that working? If not, I'm going to turn it off. Hey, Barbara. I might just turn it off and start again, and then see if you can request right away. Ah, yes, view request. Beautiful. We are... For anyone that just logged in, Laura, Mariah, Barbara, we are talking about Lindsay Kennedy's story. Hi, Lindsay.
It was a desktop, like a laptop versus phone thing. There's no request to join on the.
Oh no!
So it's just a better filming platform, but yeah, this is fine. That's what was happening though. It's not even there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
I've never logged in from the laptop. I usually just do it from my phone, so I didn't know. So all good. The people that we have with us are, there is a PT student, there is an eye doctor who is maybe going to start her own practice soon. Matt is, has a personal training business. Jennifer, I'm not sure. Let me know. Are you an aspiring owner or are you a current owner? And what questions do you have for Lindsay? And then we are going to jump right into it. So I want to hear, first, tell us about yourself, the type of practice you have, and who you work with.
Okay, sure. So my name's Lindsay Kennedy. I, like everybody, we have our hats we wear. I graduated from PT school in 2011, did a lot of different PT jobs, had 3 kids, kind of the whole in and out, hopping in and out for a season. And then in 2020, I just kind of started getting frustrated with the job market in my area and just feeling like I could serve clients better than I was able to serve them with the current like setup. So this is a super long story, but the highlight is that I just started thinking like we can do this better. We can serve these frustrated people together. And so that's my niche, is people that are frustrated, that have tried all the things and they're still hurting and they don't have great answers, and they're just tired. They're tired of Dr. Google. They're tired of spending a lot of money on different types of treatments, and they just still have the same symptoms. So that's my people. And yeah, so we serve them here in Conroe, Texas, which is north of Houston, and we have kind of a little bit different, unique setup. We treat through. We'll kind of get into it more, but we have like a muscle recovery room. We really have a very holistic approach, and
yeah, tell us the layout of your office, because I think it's really beautiful how it's set up with the waiting room and the recovery center. And
yeah,
just like,
do you want me to like show y'all? Okay.
Yeah, just walk around for a second.
I don't know how good I am.
It's definitely worth showing off.
Okay, let's see. Okay,
and you could always, I think you could click if you want to like do it front facing.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. We'll do that.
Yeah, that's easier.
So we'll pretend like we're people and come in like other people.
I think it's so helpful for people to see like all the different layouts and think outside the box of just where they're working right now.
All right, so people come in and they see our little sign, PhysioVictory, and then we'll walk into the waiting room.
Love it.
Here's Mariah. So this is our front desk girl, our waiting room. We sell some retail product, mainly hyper ice, and a few different things that we recommend for our clients so that they don't have to go shopping themselves. This is our recovery room. We offer sports chair massages, Normatec recovery products like the boots, the hips, the arms, cupping, all kinds of stuff like that.
And that's the patient wins wall.
Yes. So this is our PhysioVictory wall. So our clients like fill in their victory when they discharge of what they've accomplished while they're here. And most clients work with us for 1 to 2 months. We have a pretty short plan of care. And then this is our other PT's room, and our intern Jennifer's working in here today.
Hey, Jennifer.
So yeah, this is it. And then we'll head back to my office.
Yeah, so we have a nice big suite. I wanted people to see.
Nerdy PTs will get this. Like
Yeah, I wanted people to see kind of what this leap looked like, because it was a really big jump from mobile last summer to this big office space. And the recovery room was added on right when we met in December. So it was kind of the one treatment room and the waiting room, and then those extra rooms were added on. But it was such a big, quick jump. And everyone has their own pace. Like some people like to do it step by step and maybe do a sublease first and then get into a physical location. But I think Lindsay's story is super motivational for the people who are all or nothing, kind of like me. So, hey, Taylor. I guess we didn't have service in the storage closet. Next level movement. Are you a solo practitioner? Are you a practice owner? Trying to get to see who everybody is here. Lindsay with us? And so the part of the story, if you're just jumping in, we were talking about kind of how she started out. In the beginning, it was kind of back and forth. So right out of PT school, she worked for someone else, and then, just click pop on again. Here we go. Started working for someone else, and then 3 kids later, back and forth, in and out of the field. 2020 got to the point of just being frustrated with the traditional model. I think a lot of us can align with that and agree that there's some frustration with the traditional way of doing things. And that's when PhysioVictory kind of came to fruition. And that's where we were kind of moving into. So going from that point of frustration to then here we are. So I was just summarizing because we had 2 other people jump on. So after that kind of point of frustration in 2020, went out on your own. I think we skipped a little bit because we started showing off the beautiful location, but you were mobile first.
I was, yes. Yeah, so as a single mom, I was very financially and fiscally like conservative. I wasn't willing to take on a lot of debt for starting my practice. And so I started mobile because it was a minimal investment, and it was never my like end goal, but it was a way to start. And it gave me time to develop like, you know, LLC and logo and branding, and it gave me time to do that without like pressure to hit revenue goals. I was still contracting with other companies.
Overhead was low.
Correct. Yeah, I kept overhead really low and then kept contract jobs to get kind of where I'm at, to get ready for brick and mortar.
And I met you in December. So you were in the space about 2 months at that point. So talk to me about the growth or what you were feeling last fall versus now. Hey, Claire. Claire is a solo practitioner over in Minnesota. Claire, we're talking to Lindsay in Texas. If you have any questions about her practice, drop them in the chat. Where are we? What's going on? Having a little bit of tech issues. Yeah, but Claire, if you have any questions for Lindsay, she is in a physical space in Texas, and she went from mobile to physical, which is kind of similar. And then now she has a team. So she's got a PT, she's got full-time admin. So any questions you have for her? I don't know if it has to do with your internet. Okay. So talk to me about last fall, October. You kind of went into this space. I met you in December. What was that like in the first couple months, and what was it like transitioning from, I mean, when I met you in December, it was kind of like just getting the ball rolling, and then by April you just like exploded. So tell me about the first few months.
Yeah, so I actually leased this space in June of 2022, and then each suite like kept becoming available, and I just kept taking the leap to go ahead and expand into the current office suite I just toured y'all on. So I at first started thinking like, oh, I'll just like, you know, store my stuff at this little office. It's in a good location, and then when people don't want me to come to their home for my mobile business, like I have a location they can come to. So I was thinking actually pretty small. And then
isn't that funny how small small it is in the beginning and then what it turns into?
It's just cool because it's just bigger than me, you know, like my community needed this, and like I probably I don't mean to like toot my own horn, but I probably have at least 1 or 2 clients a day kind of tear up, like I've just been like hurting so long. It's just such a relief to find something that works, you know. So yeah, it's just bigger than me. But yeah, so I started kind of thinking small, and then I started working with with Will Boyd I set up Facebook ads and
Mm-hmm.
just to try to like figure out that lead gen stabilization piece. As a small business owner and single mom, I didn't have time to do a lot of business networking and wait for months for like return on, I just kind of needed to stabilize that piece. And so I started there, and then and so we started getting like more consistent leads, and kind of honing in our patient plan, and like targeting specific populations, and just really finding our footing in the market,
Right.
and finding who we serve well. Like who do we? Because we as PTs, that's I think the struggle is, or any medical practitioner, right? We're so trained to do so many things, and so taking time to like figure out, well, but like who are we really like need.
Right, because you could do this and you like a little bit of
Right,
that and you don't want to exclude anyone. I think that's like a real big problem when I talk to
right.
people. Like, I don't want to say no to people because I could help, but it's more about, like you said, who do we serve really well?
Right.
And like the same vibe that you had of like, if I'm frustrated with the traditional system, like my people are also the ones who are frustrated and don't want to go to the traditional medical
Hmm.
model. So I think that was a really big thing for you across the fall
Right. Yeah. We
last year.
just I think the niche we've landed in is we kind of bridge that gap of, we're certainly, have the papers on the wall, so like we speak the
Yes.
traditional medical model language, we get it, but we're also very holistic. And I find a lot of people are just looking for that like merging of the East and the West, just like
Yes.
it's both, we don't have to throw out one or the other. And so, yeah. So then fast forward, I kind of stabilized leads, and started work. I had a PT reach out to me and ask if I was interested in her like kind of working contract for me. And at the same time, because this is bigger than me, another suite opened up, for her to have a treatment room.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I hired Stephanie, because I wanted to go ahead and take the opportunity. I wanted to take the leap. I had a good PT that was interested in, and collaborating and taking on a challenge. And because it's challenging with a new business to, because you're still developing systems, so you wear a
Right.
lot of hats as a PT versus like, here's the caseload and you just see these patients and you leave. Like, so I
Yeah.
took that opportunity, but at the same time I also knew there was a lot I had to learn quickly taking on staff, because it's a whole different responsibility level. And so, working with Stephanie, we developed, the HR documents and the payroll system and the lead tracking, and because you have to
Yeah.
start stabilizing your numbers. It's not just me, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, we'll just go with a little less this month. Like you can't do that with employees. And so the
I
lead,
don't think an employee would respond very well if you said, "Oh, this week I think I'm going to pay you a couple hundred
right.
less."
But the irony is that healthcare workers accept that from corporations and from other employers, and we shouldn't, right? We accept like, oh, I got called off because census is low. It's like, like we've got to do better for each other. So anyway,
Absolutely.
uh,
And, that's why I'm so big on getting a predictable schedule and being able to look 6, 8, 12 weeks out and say, okay, I know what's coming in for December. I
mhm,
know we can cover payroll. I
right.
know that we have this, right, and coming down the line. And if we don't, I know exactly what to do to get the leads to come through.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
So we started in
Hmm.
December. You onboarded someone part-time. We started documenting all the things that you do as the owner that you don't think about. We put it on
Hmm.
paper. And then in March, things kind of went crazy, right?
Hmm.
First
Yeah.
big month.
March was a huge month. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was kind of shocking.
Right. Right. It was definitely shocking where it was like the first 10 days you were like, I've already made what I made last month. And then it was just like, I think you texted me. I know I was on vacation when you were texting me. And it's funny, Brittany's on here. And we were just talking about how like it's hard not to look at your phone when you're on vacation because I'm so excited for the owners that I work with, and even some of the patients. Like, I still want to know when they're having wins. So I saw it while I was snowboarding. You were like, "We passed this number," and then I took a coffee break, and you were like, "We passed this number. I don't even know where I'm going to put all these people." It's like, yeah. So what did that feel like? Kind of that exponential growth, and then how did it feel kind of since then over the past few months? Like, we haven't maintained that peak, but we've
Right.
been pretty close, and there's been so much change, and you're still pretty close to that number.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think one of the things as an early business owner, right, is it's typical in all businesses these days to have turnover, because people are shifting gears, they're going to get other degrees, they're going to, it's just a normal part of business. But when you're a small business owner, you're kind of like, oh, like now I have to figure out offboarding, now I have to figure out hiring, now I have to set up an Indeed account, now I have to, right? And so it's very normal, but we also dealt with some of that in the middle of, like, so the growth came, and then you're trying to figure out how to it's just, I think the interesting thing, so to answer your first question, what did it feel like in March? So that it felt very empowering, and it opened my eyes to see this is doable. Like, this is not a pipe dream. Like, and I think that was one of my biggest limiting beliefs was you can't risk this, Lindsay. Like, you have 3 kids dependent on you. Like, you need to be responsible. You need to just be consistent, and so I think March for me was a real turning point in my mindset of, why not? Like, why not me? Why not PhysioVictory? Why not this team? Like, and just letting that sit and be, and like quit holding on to so many limiting beliefs, I think was what March was for me.
Yeah. I love that you started out by saying when you initially leased the space, you were thinking, oh, like, this is for the 1 or 2 people that don't want me to come to their house. And like, I'm just going to store my stuff here and use it so my treatment table's not in my house. And then that was in June. By April, I think it was March.
It was March.
It was March. This is really quick. You were like, oh my God, forget about 10K months. Look what I can bring in, right? And it's not crazy. You're not double booking. You're not seeing 17 people a day. I spoke to a PT recently whose quota is 80 visits a week, 80 visits a week. And they promote it as one-on-one because it's individual time, but the PT's eyes are across. You're not doing that, and you're still making $30,000+ months.
Right. Our numbers are calculated on 7 visits a day, 4 times a week for me, and 7 visits a day, 2 times a week for my staff PT.
Yeah.
Like that's
you
like,
as the owner are taking lunch breaks.
Oh yeah, every day.
Not working till
I never skip lunch.
Yeah. I remember I think I wanted you to have a staff meeting during lunch or something, and you were like, oh no, I have a lunch break. That's a hard boundary. We need to reset. And like, I love that.
We even text our afternoon clients that we don't answer the door until 1 p.m. Like, you don't get to your 1 p.m. appointment early. We're having lunch.
And like that headspace allows you to be on fully when you're face to face with your patients. That's one-to-one care. You have my full undivided attention. I'm not thinking about the next person. I'm not exhausted from, documenting all through my lunch or whatever it is. So talk to me about some of the big mindset shifts when it comes to, so I don't teach ads, right? Will Boyd is awesome. He works specifically with physical therapists doing ads, and he has a whole CRM system that he teaches. But I'm big on the messaging and what you outwardly project to your patients and how to make that super, super custom to your person, which is the frustrated, tried it all before. So tell me what that was like, kind of shifting your messaging and how we really fine-tuned it to now, like, you love the people walking through the door.
I think the biggest thing is just learning, like, one, how to see who I resonate with, because as a small business owner, I think that was the hardest thing, is you keep hearing, like, find your niche, find your this, and you're like, I don't know what it is. Like,
oh my God, we were all over the place when we first started.
And you're so in there, like, it's almost like, it's almost how, like, as PTs, we can't really treat ourselves.
Yeah.
You have to get a colleague to treat you when you've got neck pain, because you're, like, going to do something weird to yourself. Like, you can't see it.
Yeah.
And so, and so I think just getting, like, because you and I sat down and went through, like, you helped me go through the Google reviews and, like, really see, like, what are people saying that are bothering to do a Google review? Like, and then checking, like, is this a client that worked well, that stayed till the end, that, like, y'all resonated with? Like, are these the people, kind of looking at the ads and, like, just really sitting down and, like, finding out what my niche was. Like, I really didn't know until I kind of had some outside perspective on it. And so I think, because we are, as therapists, we just want to help everybody. Like, that's, like, let me help everybody, of course. And no, we have quite a few people pop in here and there that are like, we had, like, a random, like, hand patient that had an acute hand injury a couple of months ago, and we've got all the training, all the stuff, and so we'll take care of anybody. It's just not who we market to. So it's kind of a cool combo, because it keeps things interesting. And of course, if we had a client that wasn't a good fit, that we just were like, well, we're happy to refer. Like, we have several great PTs in the area that we refer to, like, readily. But so I think number one, finding the niche was super empowering, and then honing the ads in and targeting the ads to where literally probably like half of the people I evaluate now sit on this treatment table right here. They sit right there and they tell me this exact thing over and over. They say, it's like you were in my head. I saw the ad. I don't know how the algorithm found me. It's voodoo magic. I don't know what you set it on. I'm like, I literally set it for the geography. That's it. Like, the geography and, like, an age bracket.
But what's the difference between the ads that you're running now versus late 2022?
Right. And the main difference is the words. I use the exact words of the clients that were resonating with us here. So I just mirror their words back, instead of saying, like, FAI, like femoral acetabular impingement, I say, like, clicking and pinching in my hips.
Right.
So I use their words, and because I had to get out of my head as a PT, we're so highly trained and we think we're really smart, and most of us are, let's just be honest, like, that's just kind of, you have to be to get here, but that's not how you draw clients in. You don't impress them with your words. They don't really care what it's called. They just want to feel better. And so getting down to the human level of it instead of the academic level of it, I think, was kind of where the magic happened.
Absolutely. And I think, going back to your niching, one thing that I want to point out to everyone listening is the niche went from, I need to find my, like, diagnosis that I love, or I need to find, like, this demographic. I only work with women age this to this with 3 kids, right? Like, very boxy, to I work with people who are frustrated with traditional medical care. When you think about that, I always teach, like, a niche is a feeling. It's a common feeling that we have. Like, I used to say at House of PT, we work with young active professionals, because those were kind of the people that I was getting at. But then I would have people that came in and they're like, I know I'm not as young as your typical patient, but can you still treat me? And I'm like, no, young is a mindset. And then I realized, no, I work with people who use exercise as their stress relief, and they don't want to skip their workout because then they can't sleep. That's the niche. And that's what we went really hard on going through your intake forms, going through your reviews, and finding the patterns of, hey, all of these people were like, I've been to 3 different other healthcare providers and no one could help. And then Lindsay finally got to the root cause. That was the pattern versus, oh, I treat all elbows.
Right. Right. And that was super freeing to me because I didn't know that could be a niche. Like my brain didn't know that was an option. And so, because what lights my fire as a PT and just as a human, my own brain lights up when I solve a problem. I'm a 4, I don't know, Enneagram 4, like that's who I am. So
Yes.
if you don't know about the Enneagram, you can Google it. But
if you haven't taken the Enneagram test, do it, learn about yourself, make your team do it.
Yes. It's so fun. And my whole team is Enneagram 4s, which I think is hilarious, and I love it. And I didn't know that when I hired them, and now every lunch hour we're like all on the same page. Like, it's so fun. But I think just what lights me up is solving a problem that no one else solved. You know, like solving a problem that's just been sitting around a long time. Like I love solving problems. Like I love it. Where if I had to see like knee arthritis like every day, that's just all I do, those people need to be served, but it's not what lights me up. I want to solve the unsolvable problem. And then it seems like the team I attract, because I'm projecting this energy and putting this energy into my like Indeed listings and things too, then I draw a team that loves working with the frustrated people, that loves like solving the unsolvable problems, and we just have these great conversations over lunch. And so, when you find your niche, however you want to say it, like it really does open up like a whole new perspective that I didn't know was an option as a business owner. I felt very boxed in by the business owner questions until I realized I didn't have to be boxed in.
Yeah, and I call that like multiplying your 5-star patients, and like that's why I'm so big on getting the reviews, because I want you to have that feedback. And something you said early on when you were talking about in June going out mobile, and it allowed you time to do some of the startup things. I want to also just like touch on this. You talked about that allowed you to have time to kind of create a brand. And I think that what I saw from the outside perspective, like meeting you 6 months after that, is that, we think a brand is our logo, our colors, our website. And really what a brand is what your clients say to their friends about you when you're not there. And getting Google reviews allows you to listen in on those conversations and see, hey, I thought that I helped this person get back to playing basketball, but what they wrote in the review was that I helped them sleep through the night. Or their biggest thing was that there were smiling faces greeting them and they didn't feel intimidated to walk into the place, right? Or they saw the same people every time instead of, right? So it's figuring out what your clients prioritize. And then once you learn what's important to them, we can put that in the ad. We could put that wherever you choose to attract your patients. Ads are just one way. Ads are one way. Social media is one way. SEO, right? There are all different ways, and you can choose the way that fits you best. But the important part is that you're using your patient's language, and it's finding out what they say when you're not around. What do they say to their friend at dinner when they're complaining about their knee pain? Oh, you have to see my blank. Yeah. I want to talk about what your onboarding experience was like with your PTs. Like, how did you feel having some of the templates that we created, having some of the standard operating procedures? Like, what was training an employee like this time around? Because you just hired. We have a new all-star team.
Yeah. So honestly, it's super helpful. I'm a very global thinker, and so I think having a structure, right? So like using your onboarding document and then tailoring it to my practice and like what I want the team to do, and just developing a framework for like how to delegate, right? I think that's the biggest thing as the team grows is I have to develop, I joke about it, but like my CEO skills, like that's a skill set I never learned.
Yeah.
You know, as a mom, you learn it to a degree, as a, you know, as different hats
Managing
we
the
wear,
household for sure.
right? Different hats we wear, we learn it. So I say to anybody that is a single mom out there, like I had a big limiting belief. This is a little plug that this is not super possible because of blah, 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 right? We all have our limiting beliefs, whether you're mom, single, whatever you are, we have our limiting beliefs. And I would argue at this point that the fact that I stayed home with my kids, had different life experiences, went through things, took a break, came back into them. I had fresh eyes. Like I had worked neuro, I had worked peds, I had worked ortho, I did a residency in ortho and manual therapy. Like, so I had this like unique like set of fresh eyes that I began to value, where when I was first coming in, I felt like I was on my heels, like I was at a disadvantage because I didn't have this perfect 10-year orthopedic resume, you know? And that's the population I wanted to serve, was like complex orthopedic cases. So yeah, that's the plug of like, don't let your limiting beliefs hold you back from your dream, like what you think you're called to do. Just keep doing the next step. And so yeah, I think so I went on a tangent. Stephanie, bring me back. What was our first question?
I mean, I think it's so important to talk about that because we do have parents, first of all, that are on here right now. And I think there's only one other person in the community other than myself that doesn't have kids. So this is like super applicable as far as like, oh, can I do this with balancing parent life?
Right. And it's totally doable. And I think I was going back to that, the CEO mindset, right? Yeah. It's like I already was one, I just didn't know it.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. I already was one. I had managed complex things like a child with medical needs and this and that. And we all have our skill sets, right? And so instead of the mindset of like, I'm on my heels, I have to catch up, shifting to the mindset of I'm going to use my strengths and I'm going to learn. I'm going to learn what I don't know. I'm going to find, you know, the right resources for me. Like
your nickname for me in the beginning.
What did I get? I know I had a funny name, but it's basically like my CEO brain. You're my CEO brain. Because I don't have one yet.
That to me, I was like, that's exactly it. Like a rent-a-CEO, right? So, yes. And you say that in the sense of like, slowly I'm like translating all of what I have in my brain from running a business and leading a team for a couple of years more than you. I'm transferring that all to you until you step into that role. And now I think it's more like, you know, a partnership at this point after working together for 10 months where you can interpret the data and make the decisions based off of an objective place, right? So the SOAP method is subjective, what's my problem in regular plain words, objective, what data do we need? So you talked about the lead tracker, we have a CRM, we have
KPIs,
your caseload, right? The KPIs are all managed from these spreadsheets, but what are the important KPIs? Not just having you track a million things.
No.
We talked about the cancellation rate, right? That was one where we're like, this doesn't apply.
Yeah,
this doesn't apply. You have people pay up front. It's a package model. So it's not important to track the cancellation rate. We are not going to waste energy on that. And a lot of what we've done since December is eliminate. We had to like a lot of systems, and that happens to a lot of new business owners where it's like, okay, I need this new thing. I need this new thing. And then all of a sudden you have 10 systems that don't talk to each other.
Yeah, and we're still honing that in, which is, I think, going to be a perpetual thing as we grow. And the other cool thing I do want to plug in with this is my other limiting belief was that I'm not a real PT business until I have, you know, the assault bike and the, you know, full set of kettlebells and the full set of dumbbell sizes. And you know, I have a light table, like a nice like table from Spain, but my other PT has like a normal massage table. My brain had all these lists of things I needed to buy to be a real business.
Yes.
And I would say to anybody out there, I mean, if you saw exactly how much money I had spent to open this practice, your jaw would drop. Like, it is so minimal. And it has been a huge blessing because it goes with my branding that my clients see. I don't need a bunch of stuff. I can literally have 2 kettlebells in the corner, a little $40 tidal tank, and some bands, and I can get better. And it takes away that hurdle most people have in America, that I have to buy a bunch of stuff or get an expensive gym membership before I can feel better. So what I felt like in the beginning was a disadvantage has become a huge asset, and part of why people see the mindset shift. Like like our tagline is physical therapy redefined.
Yes.
So people seeing like this is different, like, and it's visually different. There's not an intimidating weight rack, you know?
Yeah.
Like, this is literally our exercise equipment corner. This is it, guys.
Right.
And like Max Pro gave us a Max Pro, and we use it because we have it, but we don't even have one in our other PT's office because we don't need it. You know, it's a $1,300 piece of equipment we don't need, but it's fun, you know, to play with.
And that is huge, especially for all the people that are kind of like on the fence, or they're mobile right now and they're like, oh, how much do I have to invest to get a physical location, right? And 2 things. You kept overhead low, right, which is huge. And then the second thing is you're aligned with what you're teaching your clients. And what clients want are not the fancy gym equipment, the like state of the art, this and that. What they want is to know what's going on with their body and feel like someone is listening to them and they understand what they need. That is right. That is it. And by building your practice like this, you got out of, you know, one of the biggest things that I have a problem with. Some of the other ways to grow a business are to just constantly think about top line revenue. So more money each month. And what we've been doing since April is, okay, we want the revenue to stay the same. And now we want to minimize our expenses. And we've been pulling back and tightening up. And how can we run a leaner ship rather than how can I start double booking or working longer hours? It's, oh, this is our schedule. This is our revenue capability. And then how can we make the profit margin bigger? Right? So we could pay ourselves more, we could pay our staff more, we could maybe invest in new fun things, but it's not, growth is revenue and expenses at the same time. What we're doing now is we're becoming efficient, we're becoming a profitable business.
And sustainable. And the leaner it is, the more agile it is, right? Like, you don't like runners like that, you know, Olympic runners are not super beefy. They're agile. Like, and so that's my mental goal, is for the business to be really agile and healthy. So when the inevitable storms of life come, you know, a recession or whatever, it's like, okay, like, we only need this number of clients to just stay steady, stay the course. We can stay this course for 2 years if the recession lasts, right?
Yeah. Because
as a business owner, we always have to pivot. There's no stability, and that's fine. You just get good at being agile.
Exactly. And I think what I love hearing you kind of keep referencing is the numbers. You know your numbers. You know your numbers.
And I am not a numbers person. I'm not a numbers person. I don't remember phone numbers. I don't remember birthdays. Spreadsheets intimidate me. And I've overcome that working with you.
Yeah, that's so awesome to see that change, because the second week in my program is talking about numbers and figuring out, you know, based on the past couple months, I have you go through an exercise that it's like, are we in the right buckets, right? And you said to me, I don't need to do that because I have an account and I have YNAB. So I have systems that do that for me. And I was definitely going to look at this. We are going to look at this together, and we are going to look at this. And, you know, I kind of gave you a breather, and then now I've got you to the point where, like, you open your bank account, where you open YNAB, and you don't feel that pit of like, what does all of this mean?
Right. Yeah, because in the beginning, my goal was just don't overdraft the account, right? Spend the money in YNAB. It's a budgeting software. You need a budget. Spend the money in YNAB before you write the check. Like, make sure you're never overdrafting. Like, just that was like my goal. I didn't know what other goal to have. I didn't understand business finances. And so while I did, you know, keep my credit score good, like I never made any big mistakes, it doesn't work as you scale. Like you have to know more, you have to conceptualize. So yeah, that's part of that CEO brain.
Right, right. And not being afraid of it and being able to look and say, okay, I can afford to hire someone at this salary because I know they're going to bring in X amount of revenue, and we know what percentage of that revenue we could pay the employee, what percentage goes to running the business and contributes to overhead, right? And we know our profitability margins, and what to do if we're not there.
Because there are months we're not there. I mean, summer's tough in our industry. People are traveling and, you know, it's just, there's always seasons in every business of ups and downs. And I think the other mindset thing that I've really learned to tackle this year, and I think it's a recent thing, like we haven't even talked about this a ton, is that the business is not a reflection of me as a person. You know, I think it's easy as a business owner, it feels like your baby, and you know, you kind of, the months it's up, you're on top of the world, and the months it's down, you're like, we're all gonna die, I'm a terrible business owner. You know, the emotions of it are intense. It's like parenting, except you usually have your business longer than your children are at home. Like, it's a thing. And so I think learning to disengage my sense of self-worth from where the business is at that time and the continuum has allowed me to ride the waves without my emotions getting as wavy, you know? I think that's been really, really powerful. And then it helps me to stay objective, go back to the numbers. Okay, we're here, let's get here, or let's just spend a little less here this month because it's a little less bookings. Like, and then we're making good, healthy decisions 2 weeks out, 4 weeks out, 6 weeks out. And it's not a reflection of me. It just is, you know?
I think that is absolutely huge, and I'm glad that you shared this with me because we definitely haven't talked about that landmark yet. And it does allow you to, I call it, you're responsive instead of reactive. So responsive means I look at my objective numbers. What are my KPIs? Where are we? How do we make decisions? Versus emotional of like, but I want to do this, or it feels like I should be doing that, or right, and it like those emotions make you very reactive, and I think that is a huge transition. That's usually something that you see at like the 2-year landmark. So you're a little ahead, which is awesome. I mean, I feel like you've done 2 years worth of work just in the last like 6 months.
I feel like it, but it's been good. Like I would say too, the last 6 months, that, you know, it's a bigger picture, but one thing too that shifted, I was in survival mode for years. You know, motherhood, just life throws you lemons, and then you kind of just, you're like, I'm gonna do this, like I'm gonna, by God, God is my witness, like I'm gonna do. And I think I've just gotten to a point where my life is a little more balanced, you know, making time for things I enjoy, making time for the business, making time for my family. It's not perfect, it's not a perfect balance, but it is balanced. You know, it swings around, but I'm fulfilled in all those areas of life. And I think getting out of survival mode and into thriving mode myself has also helped me to draw better, like not better, but just like draw, it's easier for the people that resonate with our brand and what's happening to find us, I think. You know, like it just lands right, because I'm wanting my clients to thrive, but when I'm in survival mode, it doesn't resonate as well, you know? And so taking time to not just push, but find that balance, it seems intuitively like it's going to set you back in business, because there are projects that I wish I had gotten done in April. I'm not going to lie. You know, there are things I like need to be done.
There are always more things to be done.
And they haven't happened
yet.
Always more
things.
But I think more value has come from creating a better balance and focusing on getting myself as a human
Prioritizing
into thriving mode.
Yeah.
Has been key for the last 6 months of growth, because truthfully, January version of Lindsay wouldn't be able to handle October responsibilities, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a part that people don't talk about enough, is that insanely fast growth and this new level of, tripling your business revenue. You are a different person sitting here than the person who was taking their table to the patient's homes and seeing 5 to 10 people a week. That's a great starting place, and you have to go through that to learn. But that person wouldn't know how to make the decisions that you're making right now, and to separate yourself from the emotional aspect of ups and downs, and also to say, there's more work to be done, but I'm putting on my mom hat now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be present with my family, and doing work until midnight is going to, not going to make me any more energized tomorrow. And then my clients are going to feel that. And
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else that you want to share before we kind of wrap up? Anything that you would share if, about the program, or if, you've gone through the first 2 programs with me, and then now you're jumping into the community, which is like an ongoing membership with owners at your level. Anything that you would tell someone who's kind of thinking about hiring someone to help as a business coach?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I remember back in December, whenever I found you. This is a long story, but the super short version is I knew I needed more leads because I was hiring a PT. So I reached out to Janae Rose. So she's a social media, about monetizing is her thing, using a small following to monetize your Instagram following. So I was really curious about what she did and how it worked, because it didn't seem like a fly by night thing. It was solid business practices.
She's awesome. She's my business coach.
Yeah, but through resonating with your ideal client, right? So I had a coaching call with them, and I think, is it Garrett?
Yeah.
Is that okay? So I talked to Garrett for a long time, and he was like, where did you learn all this stuff? This is not normal. You were a stay-at-home mom last year? What? He was just so puzzled. Mm-hmm. But because I just have been so hungry to learn. And then what I'm getting to is that he was super straight with me, and he said, we would get you tons of leads. That's what we would do. And then you wouldn't have the systems behind it, and it would be a mess. So I'm going to hook you up with Stephanie, who has all the systems, and she'll help you stabilize leads. So she'll solve both problems, but you have 2 problems. One is you're small now and you don't know what's coming, and you need the capacity for the growth. And 2, you want to stabilize your leads, and that's great, but she's going to do that too, because she's our client. So that's how I found Stephanie. And so I remember when we talked for probably an hour, because I'm chatty. We talked.
It was right after I was in New York celebrating our 5-year anniversary, and the message came through from Garrett of I just met this physical therapist in Texas, and you have to talk to her. And then I got on the phone with you.
Yeah, and your energy was so great. And I just remember saying, I have this PT, I'm going to hire this PT, my ads are picking up. I can't afford, I remember saying, I can't afford to not hire you. And truthfully, you're very reasonable for the value you add. In the beginning, I was just I need an HR document. I need, my expectations were kind of low. I was just I just need to make sure I'm not going to get in trouble with the law, Right. I was just I don't even know where to start. I don't know what HR does, I've never done that. Yeah. So that was where I was at. And then it's just been so much more. I mean, you coming on and being I'm just going to build this spreadsheet for you. It's going to take me 20 minutes and it's going to take you 4 hours, because I already know where we're going with it. And then you'll send me a Loom video training me on it. Because in the beginning, there's so many systems to develop, and our brains just jive really well. The way you think really works with how I think, and so
I'm an 8. So we
Yes.
compliment,
And
right?
I'm
I am
a
like,
four, but I
this is
love
what we're
eights.
doing, and I don't
Yes.
care.
Yeah. I
Right?
never
I'm
have to
like,
guess what you're thinking. Like we
yeah,
can just get down to the nitty gritty of it. You're not like making me feel good, which I don't
yeah.
want. Like I already feel good on my own. I need you to tell me what to do.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I'm silent. That's a compliment. I only have
Right.
nitpicks usually. I will just put that out there. I'm like, I'm gonna point out it hurts me if I could see something that could be more efficient, and like I will just keep prying until we figure out like why do you want to do it this way if I see that this is the best way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very strong in that aspect.
Yes, yes. And that's been a
Good
really,
and
really
bad.
good fit for me. And truthfully, to be really frank too, as a female business owner, I live in the South and I haven't found my people as far as female business owners go. I'm sure they're out there.
Yeah.
But it's hard as a female business owner to connect with other owners because often they're doing the same thing I am of wearing a lot of hats. So there's not all this like, hey, let's go get a beer Friday night and chat about business. Like it's just a
Yeah.
different subculture. And so it's been really helpful for me to spend time with another female business owner. You're way ahead of me. You've done, you're in Manhattan, you're in Long Island, like you're in places that are harder to run businesses than Texas. Texas is more business friendly than where your locations are thriving.
Yeah.
And so just you being ahead of it, it makes it easy to trust you, but it's also, you're a role model for me, to be like, no, like there's absolutely no reason that I can't do all these things. Like there's no reason.
Yeah.
But knowing someone that actually does it, to be fair, most of the coaches in our space are men. And that's fine. Like men are great. I'm not a man hater, but it's really been nice to have a role model.
I'm plugging my phone in so that we don't get cut off, but don't stop. I want you to, one of the things that I've kind of heard a little bit more is like the organization. So I'm very much like, I'm direct and I'm very much like, if we want to get here, this is where we're going.
Right.
And I've kind of heard some of the other people that have come to me from other programs and coaches, it's a little bit more like they have all the tools and then it's just kind of like pick what you want and go at your own pace kind of thing. And that is very different than how I do things.
Right. Yeah. I did work. It does work well for me how you create assignments and everything's in spreadsheets and very clearly laid out. And so, yes, because I tend towards, I think most business owners, I think most PTs are a little bit ADHD, like even if it's not like official diagnosis, it's like, we can multitask and we're going to solve this, we're going to figure this out, we're going to do this. Yeah. And then business owners, right, we're shiny object syndrome. It's super easy to just, oh, let's do this thing. It's going to be so fun. It's going to solve all our problems. And so having, yes. And just knowing, I literally have gotten to where I'll send you a message and I'll just be like, hey, like I'm going to do this thing and I'm going to read this book and I need you next Tuesday to tell me, no, Lindsay, do that. Just stay the course. Like, yeah. Because I have just kind of learned it's so easy to get like all the directions, right. and then I get myself overwhelmed if I'm off on my own, which is why I've stuck with you so long, because the value now, I mean, obviously we're still solving little things and I'm like, okay, Stephanie, how do I do this?
Right.
But like I was asking you yesterday, which business, like my next goal is to learn business language. I want to learn the language of business. And so I'm like, hey, what business podcast should I watch? Like we just vibe a lot, but staying the value now, and I mean it's $1 value. It's like if you can help me stay focused and like skip one trend a month, right? Mm-hmm. That more than pays for you. Right. Like,
right. Exactly. I think that's like the lost cause of the lost cost, right, of not starting and getting someone to kind of point out the things of like, hey, I've been where you are and I've gotten distracted by this, or I've, tried this person. And, a big thing in the beginning is like, you're just looking for help and you're seeing, okay, this person does it this way. Maybe I should try that. Your offer, your package structure, like how many times did we fine tune that and get it to the point of like, we don't have a menu of 15 different options. This is what we run. This is the plan of care.
One option.
Right. And it's not that we're making it uniform where every single person does the same thing. It's still
the treatment
one-on-one. Right. The treatment is customized, but the pace of the visits, what they're signing up for, they know they're committing to a plan of care, and it's not like I get to choose what I want. And I think in the beginning, there's all of this like, my schedule's wide open. What time do you want to come? I can do a million different services. I have dry needling, I have cupping, I have this. So what do you want to pick? And it's like, no, you're the expert with 10 years in orthopedics. You tell them what they're going to do. Right? You're the guide. And we've got down to that one menu option, right? And now we're at the point where if you're doing that for a year and you're expanding and things are working, then we can start to add other things and like make the business a little bit bigger and add those other services. So yeah, the horse blinders and avoiding shiny object syndrome.
Yes.
Even some of like the podcasts or the books that you've sent me, I'm like, this one is good, but don't get distracted when they talk about affiliate marketing. We're not going to get into that, right? And like that was, I think that was a conversation we had yesterday. Yeah. So I'm really grateful that you came on and shared your story. I will tell you that I saw a text pop up from one of the owners that was watching, and the beginning was like, that was so inspirational. So I will share that with you afterwards. But people are definitely getting value out of this. And I am really excited for you to hop into the community. And our community now has 5 owners: Jersey, Georgia, Arizona, New York. There's 2 in New York. That's where I'm from. So I have my New Yorkers. And they are a couple steps ahead, right? It's time to like chase them and catch up, right? And like,
and what do they, well, part of why I hired you too, like, what do they say, right? You hear that you probably have this memorized, that the concept of you're going to perform, is it perform, or you're going to basically like who you surround yourself with is like what your life will start looking like, right? So when I knew where I wanted to go, or I was starting to have an idea, not like I do now. Now I have like a really big idea. But then I was just like, I want this, like it'd be so great to have $12,000 a month in revenue, And,
little did you know that was like a little blip in the time.
Yeah, but I mean, like September 2022, like PhysioVictory was earning $4,000 to $6,000 a month, because I was like, that's like insane, right? And then the ads, I jumped up to like $7,500 a month, but that's not all take home, right? You've got your overhead, your rent, all your things, and then in January we just started taking off, and we still have expenses, we still have overhead. It's not like I'm rich. I still drive my minivan. Like I don't want to like also perpetuate like about, right? It's not the easy road. But it's doable. It's doable. And that's been a big piece too that's helped me working with you is just really staying in the nuts and bolts of the numbers and not getting surprised when expenses come, because there's so many as a business owner that you forget about, or you're like, oh yeah, liability insurance, that's once a year, and this thing is once a year, and switching to S Corp costs this amount of money, and this is when you switch to S Corp, or could meet with your CPA. Like all these things cost money, and so I think that's where a lot of first year business owners it all pulls away from them, because you don't know what's coming. And so having you in my back pocket to be like, don't let this surprise you, right? Like don't take that home. Don't go buy your new car. That's not where we're at.
Taxes, guys.
Right.
And that's the whole point of making sure that you're with, and some of it that is like, do you want to be the big fish in the small pond, or do you want to be the small to medium-sized fish in the bigger pond and see other people ahead of you and be like, I didn't know that was possible. That's where I'm going. And, you know, that's what I'm trying to create in this community. It's like, you know, 1.5 million in revenue is a low year.
Yeah.
Like that's like our bottom threshold, right? We're trying to get above that, and we're not pushing volume. I'm not pushing volume on anyone. We, like I said, there's mostly parents in here. Everyone's got a family to balance. Everyone has home responsibilities. We're not working 24 hours a day. It is.
We're not Elon Musk.
No, we're not sleeping in the office. So I think that is, you know, a really special container, and I'm trying to keep it nice and small. There are 5 people inside now. You are number 6. You're starting this week, and we're only taking 4 more in 2023. And I'm really, really particular with the mindset of the people that are coming in here. Like, I want people who are hungry to grow and people who are not going to get offended when I say, this is a bad idea, we're not doing this, right? Like stay the course. And also I want people that want to learn from each other, and there's no like protective, or there's no like competitiveness. It's all about like, hey, I tried this and it didn't work, so why don't you try this instead, and like sharing. And that's what's going on in there right now. So I'm super excited about, you know, growing that to a nice 10 contains practice owners all on the same path.
Okay. Well, I'm honored to be at the table.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, and I appreciate you spending a full hour.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, I'll check in with you later. And if anyone has any other questions for Lindsay, just send me a DM, and I will make sure that we get connected.
Awesome.
Thanks, Lindsay. Bye.
Bye.